Hello, everyone. Steve Tober with Dennis Jones for the best time of the high school football season, the playoffs. And Dennis, you look around North Jersey, there's so many intriguing matchups. Everybody's gotten to this point now. The season starts over again. Everyone's 0-0. Let's start off in North 1, Group 1. Butler Mountain Lakes. They met regular season. They're on the same side of the bracket, so if they meet this year, it's going to be in a semifinal. But how do you see a rematch perhaps in a semi in North 1, Group 1?
Well, you mentioned the previous meeting. It was a 17-14 game. You know, Butler was winning that game with a minute to go, and Mountain Lakes just came back with 1 minute on the clock and ran it in for a touchdown. I mean, great game, great comeback game. You know, they're built for that. You know, they're built for the running game. First-year coach Fusco is doing a very good job, I would say. But you can't count out Butler, you know. But in that section, I don't even have Butler advancing. I actually have Butler, you know, going down in that section. I have Mountain Lakes advancing with Wallington in a final matchup.
That is very interesting, Dennis. We're going to have to wait and see what happens there. I don't know if I'm going to bet against Coach Matsakis, but hey, that's why they play the game. Let's move to North 1, Group 2. Riverdale, which has been a recent regular in that section in terms of being an excellent team to watch. Lakeland, Tom McCormack always does a great job as a 3 seed. Lenape Valley, Don Smolin. Now, they stubbed their toe, certainly quite one-sidedly against Madison in a regular season game. But how do you see North 1 Group 2 shaping up?
Well, I agree with you there. And you mentioned Lenape Valley, Pequannock, another good team there. They actually have to face off. Lenape stumped their toe, like you said, twice, you know, losing to Madison in a big way and also losing to Hanover Park recently as well. So I don't really like the way they're going into the playoffs. I don't think Pequannock is loaded enough to carry that group. But you mentioned Riverdale and Lakeland. That's who I have in my final. I think those are the two teams to make it to Giant Stadium.
Yeah, I think I would go with Riverdale as my pick, but I never count out Lakeland as well. North 1 Group 3, some statewide public powers certainly. Wayne Hills, Chris Olson's team, lost last year to Ramapo in the snow at Giant Stadium. They're the top seed there. You got number 2 seed at Old Tappan. And here's a team with Devin Fuller, their outstanding quarterback, who over 300 yards against Ramapo in a regular season win. I mean, there could be some excitement. Most people pointing to one of the marquee matchups could be Wayne Hills and Old Tappan.
Exactly. You know, Old Tappan is just a phenomenal team. Devin Fuller is putting up tremendous numbers. And I actually have them in the final game with Wayne Hills, and Wayne Hills going all the way. I like them against Ramapo recently. They really put it to them. Brian Dowling is one of the most outstanding athletes I've seen in North Jersey. I like Wayne Hills.
I think you have to go with Wayne Hills on experience as well. And I think last year they'll get a little redemption maybe this time around after losing to Ramapo and Drew Gibbs last year. Let's move to North 1 Group 4, a section I'm very interested in with our Essex County influence. Montclair, although 4-4, they drew a 4 seed, get a Ridgewood team, Chuck Johnson's club. I think that's a very good quarterfinal game out at Woodman Field. And you talk about West Orange. Now that's a team, Lance Smith, a junior running back. They've got Josh McNeil, an outstanding receiver, and you've also got Christian Smith, a quarterback. I think John Jacob, this is a team that's only won 1 playoff game in their history. I pick them to win the section. I think they're that good. West Orange is lights out.
I like West Orange, too. Don't forget about Randolph. They're playing very good football right now. They have a first-round matchup with Livingston. I think they will win that game. Livingston's pretty tough, too. I don't think they match up well with Randolph. The team that I think is a dark horse in that section is North Bergen. Peter Ramanan, who really can take over games. I have them going to with West Orange in the final game with West Orange winning.
Very interesting. North Bergen, Vinny Ascalise. North Bergen lost a tough overtime game to Montclair in the second week of the season, but you're right. Ramadan is an outstanding athlete. Well, I'm gonna go with West Orange and stay with that. But I see a Montclair-West Orange semifinal, perhaps, which will be a rematch of a regular season game. The Mountaineers won 21-14. Let's move to Section 2. Let's start with Group 4 with the big guys. And Dennis, this is a section, you got state-ranked teams all over the place. Phillipsburg, Hunterdon Central, Piscataway coming off a great regular season win over Sayreville. You throw in the Essex teams, which certainly be underdogs. Columbia at home against Bridgewater Raritan, and that's a tough matchup for the Cougars. They're playing a Group 2, Group 3 division in the SEC this season, but they are 8-0. And then you look at what Westfield has to do to go out to Hunterdon Central and Flemington. Very tough spot for Jim DeSarno, who's one of the great coaches in North Jersey. The East Orange Jaguars, looking at some of the publications out there saying they could be a sleeper. They have to go down to Piscataway. So some interesting games there. And who do you like there? I mean, there's so many outstanding teams.
There's a number of ways you could go, like you mentioned. Hunterdon Central is obviously favored. But, you know, there's no saying that Bridgewater Raritan can't beat them. You know, and also you got Piscataway and East Orange. Franklin is a sleeper as well in that season. A lot of people don't even have them advancing, But they've got some tremendous athletes on that team. Kai Morgan probably has one of the fastest 40 times I've ever seen in a kid in North Jersey. He's only a junior. So just watch out for Franklin as well.
I'm going to go with Phillipsburg. I just think that's a team that always gets better as the season goes on. They've got great playoff history. I know they lost one regular season game to Hunterdon Central, but
right.
I just think Phillipsburg in a big spot, the State Liners, I'm going to go with them.
I'm going to go with Phillipsburg, too.
Let's go to group. Well, we agree on that one.
I'm going to agree with you on that one.
On Group 3, a team you're very familiar with, Dennis.
Yes.
West Morris, which gets a first-round bye, the top seed, defending champ. Another great coaching staff under Kevin Henley.
Yeah.
Dan Widener, one of his assistants, just a super staff, and they do a great job every year. It looks like, to me, it's their section to win or lose.
I agree. They've been the best team in this section all year long. They've got a kid named Tom Cabarly, who's scored more touchdowns than anyone in Morris County this year. Going back to last year, he's been the top scorer in Morris County. They also got Shane Thompson. They're just playing lights out. I don't see anyone in this section that can really hang with them. I like Nutley. They played some tough competition, and that's really why I like them. I really think they can go from a 7 seed all the way to the final game.
Wow.
Steve, I'm picking some really winners in this one.
Dennis,
do you really like
this? Fun. I think Nutley's going to get picked off against Colonia in the first round, but by seeds you would think so. But hey, Nutley, Steve DiGrigorio's done a great job with rebuilding that the skill, the people, and the skill positions. They're all new kids, and they did a nice job. I tell you, team Morristown is intriguing. Chris Hull, a team that gets a lot of flack in the community just because they're very demanding fans, much like Randolph has. And Randolph's had a great year, which gives Joe Lasardi redemption, getting back to them. But Morristown, a team is a 4 seed with Plainfield. That's a very tough quarterfinal. Plainfield is underrated. But if Morristown gets there, they get West Morris.
It would be a tough game for Morristown to win. Just like you said, they're under tremendous pressure in Morristown. Everyone wants them to win. And every year they come close, and then they just can't get there. But Kevin Gaskins can help them get there.
Well, we'll go with West Morris as our pick there. Let's move to North 2, Group 2. Hey, this is a section that you could pick 2 or 3 teams, I think, to win here.
Right.
Caldwell's the top seed, and the Chiefs have been red hot. But you look at defending champion Summit, a 4 seed. You look at Madison, a 2 seed that some people think might be the best team in Morris County. I mean, Randolph is the bigger team and gets a lot of applause, but Madison with Matt McHale and Aaron Font and all the running backs, Chris Kubik really has it together there at Madison. And that's going to be, they take on the Shabazz Bulldogs, the Darnell Grants team that got in with a big win over Nutley in a Week 8 game. But how do you see that section shaping up?
Well, I'm not going to shock you here. This is going to be Madison Caldwell. I have them in the final game, but there's so much tremendous talent in this section. Someone's going to go home unhappy. I mean, you got Orange and Rutherford at 7-0. There's just so much talent here. I really don't know who's going to win. But if I can just pick a pick, I'll go with the top 2 seeds. I'll go with Madison and Caldwell.
Although I like Madison to win it, I tell you, another team we didn't mention, West Essex. Great history, whether it's North 2 Group 2 or they were in North 1 Group 2 for a couple of years there. Didn't win there, but played tough games. They made the final with Jefferson a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, they're a Dave Drozdak coach team.
Yeah, they're going up to
playoffs.
Rutherford. Dave Drozdak and company, they could give Rutherford a tough game up there. Almost like the Essex team. I'm not sure the small Bergen schools are quite as strong, but we'll find out. We'll see what Rutherford can do.
Yep.
So we'll go with Madison in North 2 Group 2. Let's move to North 2 Group 1. Hey, a lot of nostalgia, a lot of teams to watch. New Providence with the nostalgia. The venerable Frank Batone, the top seed. New Providence hosting Hoboken, who's been around forever in the playoffs in all different groups. Dayton, the 2nd seed. Joe George's team from Springfield. Anthony Chiaffi, a quarterback. Some great athletes. The 2 seed hosting Belvedere. Glen Ridge, the team I like very much. I've seen them 3 times. I know they stubbed their toe against Caldwell. I think it's tough for teams to play 8 straight weeks of great football. I mean, Madison's done it. There's teams that have done it, but not that many. I mean, how do you see that? I think there's some excellent teams in this section.
There are definitely some good teams here. You mentioned Hoboken, Verona as well, but I really like Glen Ridge. I like Glen Ridge winning this section outright against New Providence in a final game.
That's funny. I picked Glen Ridge as well, but a lot of sentimentality riding with Frank Batone into Providence, and rightly so. Gentlemen will be 80 in January, still coaching high school football. You got to love that in his final season. We wish the best of luck to Frank Batone and the Pioneers. Let's move into the non-publics, Dennis. You talk about, the juggernauts in the state and the national scene. Let's start a non-public. Let's start first a non-public Group 2 and 1. We'll build ourselves up to the juggernaut.
Why not?
The nationally ranked. A team for locally, Montclair Kimberly Academy, which has not been in the playoffs since 2002. Lance Raymer has done a tremendous job there. They were 1-9 last year. They're coming off their first ever win over Cedar Grove last weekend. albeit a Cedar Grove team rebuilding, but still to beat Cedar Grove for them the first time since 1993, and they've never beaten them before. It's just tremendous. But they've combined groups 2 and 1, which they had to do with Patterson Catholic closing. But how do you see this section? Interesting. St. Anthony, kind of an unknown, a top seed, and some old standby, St. Joe's, Hamilton, Holy Cross.
Yeah, you don't know too much about these teams. At least I don't personally. I'm not sure what to think of St. Anthony's. However, I like Holy Cross coming out of this section. I think that they are, they have the first round bye, which means they'll probably end up with a St. Mary's matchup, maybe in the second round and semifinal round. Quarterfinal round. We'll see what happens there, but I like Holy Cross coming out against St. Anthony's in the final game.
It's funny, I'm picking St. Joe's to win it all. This is a school, this team in Hamilton has had great state tournaments, state playoff success. Their defense is lights out. They've got some great players, and they're coming off a big win over Egg Harbor last weekend, too. I'm going to go with St. Joe's Hamilton. Let's move to non-public Group 3. Hey, there's some great teams in this section. Immaculata, St. Joe's Montvale, Pope John. I mean, this is an interesting section, as it always is. St. Joe's Montvale had a great weekend last weekend and a game with not PowerPoint ramifications against Wayne Hills, but certainly an impressive win for Tony Karsich. How do you see this section?
Absolutely. I mean, there's some familiar games in here as well. Del Barton, Pope John, and they play every year, it seems like, almost for playoff implications, and then they play again in the playoffs.
And they played last week.
They just played last week. I mean, so they know each other very well, which makes for always a great game. Do not sleep on Del Barton overcoming Pope John.
Even young Del Barton team, all sophomores.
I actually don't think they'll win, but it could be a competitive one. Pope John will win that game. Immaculata will beat DePaul, and I like St. Joe's Montvale. I like St. Joe's and Holy Spirit in the final game.
I can't disagree with that per se. I like Immaculata, but they stubbed their toe against a good Linden team. I'm going to go with St. Joe's Montvale, too. Tony Karsich is such a great playoff coach in their history as well. Let's move to non-public Group 4. Here's your national power, Don Bosco Prep at the top. Everybody's picked a team which we're certainly interested from a local perspective. Has had a great season so far at 9-0. Seton Hall Prep with 2 of the top 11 players, I think, in New Jersey. Most people would say Kevin Monangai, outstanding running back, and Connor Wojak, the Boston College bound, playing defensive line in high school. He'll probably be a defensive end in college. But, I mean, you're talking about a team that can really put up points, Seton Hall. The problem is sometimes they can't stop other teams from scoring, and that could be their problem in this section.
It could be. I mean, anytime you look at a Don Bosco section, you tend to look around and say, well, who's the runner-up? In this section, it's looking like Seton Hall Prep. There could be a second-round matchup here with St. Peter's Prep and Seton Hall Prep. I think that would be a fantastic game. I'm actually looking forward to that, and I hope it happens. But if it goes the way I think, Don Bosco Prep will be playing Seton Hall Prep in a final game.
Well, it's interesting because St. Peter's Prep, the 5 seed, should win at Notre Dame. Then they would match up with Don Bosco in a semi. Bergen Catholic, Seton Hall. That would be an interesting semi because you talk about the Crusaders. They've had some ups and downs on and off the field, but certainly a team Nunzio Campanelle. You got to look for them. That semifinal, I think that might be the proving ground maybe for Seton Hall Prep if they could beat a Bergen Catholic in the semi.
Oh, sure.
Even though nobody's expecting anybody to beat Bosco. That would be quite a rise for John Finnegan and the Pirates. So we'll go, certainly both of us, with Don Bosco Prep. No surprise
Why
there.
not?
So, Dennis, it looks like it's going to be a great playoffs coming up. Everybody's starting out fresh. I think there are going to be some surprises the first weekend, and I'll be curious to see what ensues in terms of some of these lower seeds rising up.
Well, if you go by my picks, there'll be some surprises, Steve. But I also am looking forward to going to the new Meadowlands Stadium. I know the kids are. They'll be really excited about this new venue. And it's great for them.
That's December 3rd and 4th at the new Meadowlands Stadium. They're also using Kean University, and it's going to be some great postseason action for the next 3 weeks, throwing a little Thanksgiving as well. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little review of the playoffs in North Jersey. For our viewers out there and our readers on NJ Hot Shots and Sideline Chatter, for Dennis Jones, I'm Steve Tober.